thank you all of you for listening patiently. It's going to be quite a long session this morning. Um, I'm tweaking the presentation slightly because I was going to talk about culture and ontology and indigenous worldviews. But looking at the audience and particularly for all the kids, I decided to pull up a presentation with some images as well. That's our most famous elephant Ganeshan in the background being escorted by his local security guards. But before we jump into it, just thinking of a global scenario, we all think conflict is really bad. But the global north manages conflict by killing animals en masse. America is killing 200 animals an hour as they come out of protected areas. Around the world, the first free roaming bison came into Germany some time ago and was killed in a few hours because people thought it was dangerous. But in India, that's T23 and Arikomben. Even when animals kill people, we don't immediately seek to kill the animal. We try to look for other solutions before we go there. So we're starting in a very positive place. People don't realize this. The number of humans in India has doubled in the last 40 years. Everybody knows this. But the number of elephants, the number of tigers, the number of lions, the number of rhinos has all possibly doubled. So we have to really understand what's going on with culture and coexistence. It's a very serious thing that we have not thought about. At a more regional level, again, everybody thinks Kerala is really bad, Tamil Nadu is really bad. But it's because we value human life here. When people get killed, we are much more developed states. People make a fuss about it. In absolute numbers, the southern states are not as bad. But understanding this, particularly on elephants, is the driver is really important. What Ravi mentioned, it's not the symptom is that they're interacting. Why are they interacting more, right? So you have invasive species that are taking over wildlife areas and pushing animals out. And right outside, you have lush green crops growing all through the year, now irrigated, that are attracting these animals out. So this push-pull is what needs to be addressed really for all animals. Compensation is a necessary band-aid against something that was mentioned. But the more you can't keep indefinitely paying compensation, it's just going to start escalating upwards. And particularly with elephants, right? What's happening is almost the junk food addiction. Instead of spending 12 hours or 18 hours foraging on a range of all kinds of foods, getting macronutrients, micronutrients, and exercise, they hide all day and cooperate for 2 hours and get a hit of like a McDonald's burger very quickly. They get obese. They are very obese. Bhumi will tell you more. He's done a lot of collaring. They're so fat you can't put a collar on sometimes. The other thing is this whole idea of zonation and coexistence. Is it possible everywhere? That's Bandipur. You see a hard edge. Elephants move north. The next stop is Mysore, right? Is it useful for the elephants to start cooperating and moving in that direction? Here is Gudlur and Mudumalai, but you cannot tell where Mudumalai ends and where Gudlur starts. So these kind of mosaic landscapes is where coexistence is being discussed the most in India. There are certain hard boundaries that we will need. So this zonation is something we've been working on a lot. You'll need kind of intact zones where animals largely exist without modern humans. You'll have connectivity zones. You have coexistence or co-occurrence zones. And finally, we have to have some exclusion zones where you have to prioritize human food security and the right to life and livelihood. This is something that we cannot ignore. We cannot expect that animals, like Rohini said, can't share your house, maybe can't share your paddy field, can share your coffee plantation, can share your tea plantation, because elephants are not eating these crops. So this understanding of crops and things like that is really important. I'm running through. We can talk about this more if anybody's interested, email me. This is something we did for Wayanad in trying to understand this zonation from an elephant perspective. The first thing you need to know, where are the crops that elephant likes to eat? So that Nulpura Panchayat, for example, down there, you can see everybody's growing rice. Moundad and Chetty's, there was a person here who talked yesterday. They're not going to stop that. That is perhaps an area where you cannot have elephants because it's never going to end well. But there are other areas where the yellow is non-conflicting crops. The orange is what attracts elephants out. You really have to understand this from an elephant perspective before we can make maps. Hopefully, we will do this for the Nilgiri soon as well. So on exclusion zones, we need barriers. And the key takeaway is every barrier works for some elephants. I see one strand that's put up that somebody says very effective. Here you put up 5 strands and tentacles and everything, and elephants bash them down. So elephants are much more rowdy than in other parts of the country, maybe, right? But you put up the most intense barriers, railway barriers that cost 1.5 crores per kilometer, and still elephants try to cross, very sadly get killed as well. So we have to think about how can we have barriers that are safe for animals and not too expensive, but we have to have barriers somewhere. I feel we cannot have elephants coexisting everywhere or moving around everywhere. This is again an experiment we did in Wayanad. There's a video I can share. We put up 4 different kinds of barriers: beehive fences, electric fences, those steel ropes, and those lashing belts from ships to see what is the most cost effective around a common food source. So almost comparing each fence against each other. Otherwise, what happens in a fence is that one farmer puts a fence, elephants go to the neighboring farm, and he says very effective. So beehive fence work, all fences work. But for how many elephants and what's happening to your neighbor? So we surrounded it and we're going to do this. We'll have the results soon. It's funded by Tata's. Peter is here, who's very excited and part of this project as well. Connectivity zones, which is the most challenging. I'm talking about people primarily. You have to understand different cultures. These are kind of three indigenous groups: Katnaikins, Betkurumbas, and Paniyas from Gudlur, who have always been here. They're hunter-gatherers who don't grow crops. They almost believe that an elephant is an other than human person, right? Ontology I mentioned earlier. They have very little conflict. You have settled agriculturalists who are also indigenous, who've always been here, the Chettis and the Mulukurumbas, who have always grown crops, always known how to deal with elephants. They have a sort of stable love-hate relationship. They know how to deal with elephants. But you also have a range of immigrants who have moved into the area, including, I think, most of us in this room, who struggle a lot with this. We can't easily kind of know how to deal with animals. We all have to relearn how to live with animals. So understanding these cultures among different people and what an animal actually is, fundamental question of what is an animal also differs. So it's a very important thing that we need to understand for coexistence. Elephants also have personality. This was a key part of my PhD. We started identifying all the individual elephants in Gudlur, and we have 160 individuals that we know by name. We gave the name with a local person. The other quick point to understand is that we don't know about numbers, and animals are always portrayed as the victim, that humans are expanding their footprint, which is happening. But it's also true that elephants are expanding their footprint, definitely. That is elephant presence absence from a distribution from 2013 to 2018. And elephants have clearly colonized much more of Gudlur. When I was growing up, there was no elephants in most parts of Gudlur. Now I have to be very careful if I'm going on a motorbike in many parts because you will encounter elephants. So animals are a victim, but they are also expanding their range and moving out, which we need to understand better. And local communities are also sometimes victims. How do we balance this is really important. Conservation zones, I'm not going to say much, but yeah, invasives, everybody knows what a huge problem it is. It's going to cost about 2,000 crores to clear all the lantana from the NBR. It's something like $15 billion for all of India, and it's the most widely distributed invasive in the world now, IPBS report from the end of last year. It's the most widely distributed plant. The rat is the most widely distributed animal, but ecological impact of the rat is maybe not so much, the black rat. How do we deal with it? We've been focused single-mindedly on creating value at scale. These invasives have to become valuable for people, then people will start removing it. That's the only way we're going to deal with this. The elephants, many of you all know about. Everybody's bored of the elephants here, so we brought a gaur instead. This time it's downstairs. And other Senna animals. Those are all Senna spectabilis. The elephants are a great livelihood, but they're not really clearing it at scale. We're focusing now on biochar. It's a plant we've just set up in Mysore. But yeah, promoting this is really important. Elephants are quite famous as well. There are two stars there. Ringo, star from the Beatles, and Raghu from Mudumalai. Unfortunately, Raghu is being covered by Ringo, but the elephants are in LA at the moment. So finally, coming to the end of it, elephants and animals adapting and learning to human landscapes is vital. We all kind of know how intelligent elephants are. They learn that they can break fences. Their tusks are non-conductors of electricity. So this is called, this chap is OVT7, Alibaba Bashir, because he can open any gate like the historical figure. Very carefully steps over. The day after this, 4 other elephants tried to come and break the fence. So social learning, we don't know if social learning happens in animals, but clearly they are communicating with each other, right? So this guy, yeah, he's an expert at breaking fences. A lot of us have heard of this. I'm coming to more advanced physics that elephants are learning. Wait. So this is WT34. We have not given him a name. He's expert at coming under the fence. Okay, so he comes under regularly, comes down in the night, early morning, he goes back. Look at his crouching, very expert behavior. Bears the shock. I mean, electric fences give you a mild kind of sting. He bears that sting. But now watch this and let's see if anyone can understand what's going on. Sadly, we don't have a video. It's only photos. But basically, he's learned some advanced physics. When he comes to the fence, there's a pool of water underneath that gives him a very intense shock. He takes mud and fills that hole with mud to reduce the conductivity through his body, and then he goes underneath, right? Just look at that sophistication. Even human beings will not easily figure out that if you're wet, you'll get a worse shock. But he knows that and he's filled this up. Yeah. So there are amazing things happening. That's a long conclusion. I'm 1 minute over. Sorry, I'm not going to. Anyone can take a photo if you want. I won't say much. And finally, yeah, thanks to everybody. My email is there. Anyone can email me if you want more of these videos. All of them are long form. Big thanks to Rohini here. She was the first person who supported the elephants. Dhanush also from our team did the land use mapping. Another person, Madhu, did the Wayanad fence, put up the fence there in record time. He's not here, but his daughter Tuesa is here and she asked a question yesterday. Thanks to the whole team. Thank you.